I remember it well. And everybody in Honeypath remembers me. My father had a supply store on Main Street, and that was Thomas Supply, well, my grandfather, and then my father. And so I spent quite a bit of time in and out, around about everybody in Honeypath. The main thing that I enjoyed was the fishing supplies because I love to fish. But his main thing was he did tires, automobile parts, and he also recapped tires. My grandfather and I went fishing just about every week. And of course my grandfather knew exactly where to fish and where to put me, and I had to be quiet, and you know, it was a big deal. Oh, I always wanted to farm from my whole life. My granddaddy, well, I would get in his lap and tell him I was going to be a farmer. And at age 17, I did. I bought 75 acres.
How does a 17-year-old buy 75 acres?
Because I had saved my money forever. I also taught baton, and I saved every penny, and I had a down payment. And Mr. James Shirley believed in me and financed me at age 17.
For 75
acres. Yep. Yeah, I used my land for them to hold cattle, and then they would get so many steers of one breed, so many steers of another breed, and then they would sell it, and then they would give me a portion of that. And then I was working at Federal Land Bank in Anderson and going to Anderson College, now Anderson University. And I met Bob Stone, and that was when I moved to Star. Like he said, he went around the world 3 times and came home and found the love of his life, or got in trouble, one of the two.
And at the Federal Land Bank?
He was actually planning to be a veterinarian, and then he was called into service. And then that's where he came back home after service, and that's where we met. And you know, it was hard to get in vet school at the time.
Yeah.
But you know, we got married, and he was older, and we wanted to have kids and started a family, and kind of the rest is history. Every day I would be out in the pasture and checking the cows, and I would look over here, and Miss Brown at the time was still living here with a sitter, and the house was going down in really bad shape. And soon after that, there was a little fire out in her front yard, and I came over and helped, and I just walked in the house and fell in love with it. And it has this little grandma smell to it, and it still has it to today. And a lot of people say that when they walk in, and I hope that never ever changes. But I smelled that little smell when I walked in that first day, and I thought, oh, this is just so cozy and so unique. As time went on, I would say, that house cannot just be destroyed. And it did come up for sale, but I didn't realize it. And another lady bought it, and she kept it for a while, and then she realized that she, just didn't have the funds to fix it up. So, so I told her if she ever decided to sell it. And by that time, I had lost my husband and was farming, just doing truck farming on all the property and extra land that I had rented. And I just said, oh, I would love to have that as a restaurant and a bed and breakfast. I was kind of embarrassed to tell people what I was doing because everybody was like, no, that'll never work. I just can't imagine you're going to invest in something like that. I was always real big with Farm City Week and working with the kids and educating the kids on farming, and the sponsors that were there in town. I talked to them, like the different banks, and they all said, Kathy, that is a bad idea. Come on to Anderson. We will definitely finance you. But right there, if that's really what you're planning to do, we don't advise that. And I said, well, I'm going to make it work because I've got to stay home with my boys and raise them right there on the farm. And they said, well, we really don't see that happening. People are not going to come out there. I said, well, I'm going to prove them wrong. I rewired, replumbed, did everything you could possibly do to refurbish this place. And fortunately, the day I opened, I had a little open house, had people coming from far and wide, because I was actually the first person who had taken a chance to go out in the country and open a bed and breakfast and a restaurant.
And it's been how many years?
34. That's unbelievable.
Kathy.
That is unreal.
Yeah.
And like I say, I love it. I can't wait every day for people to walk through that door. I'm just like, and it's harder now to find people to help you than it was in the beginning. So I'm working harder than ever.
I've often said about the Gray House that it was kind of like the movie If You Build It, They Will Come, talking about the baseball field out there in Iowa. And you have done that. People will drive here and think nothing of it.
Fine.
And especially Sundays.
Oh yeah, we're packed.
When you tell people that you've met for the first time, I'm from Star, South Carolina, what do you tell them?
Well, usually everybody knows I'm from Star. It's just like, you know, it's hard to describe. So, you know, they say, well, why did you do this? Why did you move to Star? And I tell them just what I've told y'all. But I said, but it's such a neat place, you know? People are there for you. They don't hover over you. But when you need them, they're there. The principal of Crescent High School once had a really bad car accident, and his whole family was hurt. Yep. And we turned the Gray House into a weekend to do for them. And I turned all the schools into taking in mayonnaise, cabbage. I turned them into little grocery stores. And we actually made enough money to add on to their house to buy the young boy that was paralyzed from his waist down a four-wheeler that he could ride for Christmas. And then later, when he graduated from Clemson, the money that we had left over, we gave to them for him to make a down payment on a car. So that's the way Star operates.
The other thing that you have developed is this following and this loyalty among your customers. I mean, you have people that I know for a fact have been still coming here that came when you first opened.
Absolutely.
Over the past several years, some industry has moved here to provide you another base of potential customers.
Oh, yes. The first one that comes to mind is the Santee Cooper plant. And I was fortunate enough to do their opening. And I actually did a cake that looked just like the plant. And I had steam coming up, like the steam from the plant. And of course, from then on, I've done every little catering job for them.
From the day you opened, you've always tried to grow and buy locally.
Exactly.
Can you still do that?
I can, and it's getting even better. At first, I grew all my vegetables, did all my herbs, and even tried to do the beef. But I had to do one or the other. I had to either stay here and cook or actually work in the field. And so I decided to put my eggs in this basket and still do a little bit of growing, but not nearly what I used to do. I still have my pecan cracker. I still have a bean sheller that shells a bushel of beans in 5 minutes, but the beef was the main thing. And I'm so happy to say that 2 of my really special people are now producing beef for Sysco, which is one of my largest purveyors that brings me food sometimes twice a week. And they come out of Columbia. But I have one, Lydia and Kevin Yon, and they live down in Ridge Springs. And then I have the Alexander family, which I'm pleased to say is right here in Star. I think they actually sell once a week to slaughter for Sysco. And so when you sit down at a restaurant, whether it's in Atlanta or right here in Anderson County, you could actually be eating some of their beef. And that just tickles me to death.
From right here in Star, South Carolina.
Right here.
If you have not taken the trip to Star to enjoy the Gray House, let me just tell you, you're missing out on one of the pure joys of life. Not only the food, but the folks Kathy has working for her and her herself back in the kitchen.